Hey, everybody, welcome back to Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matt Brown. I'm here with my favorite co host, Dr. Andrew Vallo. Some say the greatest startup doc in history. We have a really good episode for you today. It's about daily goals. I think that there's lots of goals and KPIs. We look at a lot of levels. There's yearly, there's quarterly, there's monthly. I think sometimes docs don't get down to the daily. And I think the daily builds the monthly, the quarterly, and the yearly. And we've done some episodes about goals and KPIs, but I think focusing down on the daily front lines in the trenches, measurement of how things are happening in the practice and how that happens on that little daily basis and understanding what creates that is really critical. And this was Andrew's subject. So Andrew, just kind of start us off. Why daily goals?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit there, Matt, where I used to really be only focused on monthly goals, annual goals, quarterly goals, which are still important. And we still have all of those in place. I actually just sent out an email to every single office team this morning with their current progress as far as December goals, Q4 goals, because right now we're December, early to mid December right now, guys, but as we're recording this, but I sent out this email with all these, the progress, and then under each number, I sent them, how much shy they were of the monthly goal, the quarterly goal, the annual goal, and how many working days they had left in December, and how much they needed to collect. This was all based on collections. So, I mean, we absolutely have different goals based on different KPIs. But, I think lately my main focus as I'm working with the teams has been collections. So I think, our regional manager kind of hones in on some of the other stuff. We've got our chief sales officer that really works with the treatment coordinator team on treatment acceptance numbers and KPIs. We've got our chief hygiene officer that really works with the hygiene department on all their KPIs. But when I'm working with teams, I'm really focused on revenue. I'm focused on how much money is a practice bringing in. So, I basically broke down and said, hey, if you want to hit your December monthly goal, this is how much you need to collect on each of your working days you have left in December. If you want to hit your Q4 goal, this is what you got to hit. If you want to hit your annual goal, this is what you have to hit. So I've realized, over time that one thing is, each month has different number of days in it, of working days. And, as we get into November and December, especially depending on where those holidays fall, I mean, I guess Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday, but especially for December, how the holidays fall. And November this year, because of how the calendar fell, we had, I think, just about our least working days we've had in November in a while. We only had 18 working days for the company. And typically we see 20 to 22 working days a month. I think some months, if things fall perfectly, it can be up to like 23 working days in a month. So that's a dramatic difference. When you think about we want to hit the same targets, we want to hit the same revenue. We don't want to see a decline. So that means we need to collect more on a daily basis if we have less working days, if we want to hit those same goals. And so I realized that, early heading into November, we had a bunch of quarterly meetings in early to mid-October. So I talked to our OMs about what they needed to do in November to make sure that they stay on track. I sent, team emails out. I sent messages in our big group WhatsApp chat, kind of keeping the team updated on where they were in terms of their goals. And, we asked a lot of them. We said, hey guys, in order to be where we want to be, because we had seen a lot of growth in the last few months, and I wanted to keep the momentum going. So I said, in order to be where we want to be in the month of November, we essentially need to have our highest daily collection rate that we've ever had. And let's focus on the Black Friday sales. Let's push to see if we can get there. And the team came through, and we did. And we had in 18 working days, we collected just over 18.5. I think it was maybe 18.6 actually million. So it was, comfortably over $100,000 a day in collections every single working day we were open in November. And so, I applauded the team. I celebrated, But then the calendar flipped and we were right into December. And I said, guys, we've got the same situation going on. So I challenged them and I said, can we carry that momentum forward into December? We've got similar number of working days here in December. Can we again have that daily collections, over $100,000 a day? And can we get there again? And so far, 8 days into the month, we are on pace. So we are kind of matching that pace from November. And I'm trying to make sure that everyone has clear cut, you can't improve what you don't measure. So, we've got to constantly be measuring where we're at, where we're trying to go. I want everyone to have clear goals in mind, and I want them to know what it's going to take to get there. And some offices are really on a great pace, for some of these goals. And they're kind of helping to carry some of the weight. And some of our other offices are falling a little bit behind. I mean, let's be honest, guys, it can be a tough time of year. I think elective dentistry tends to go down. So our teams need to be that much more motivated in order to make sure that we are hitting those goals as we come into the holidays. Because, what I said to them is, I want you guys to, get bonuses and our teams, basically in order to get bonus and in order to get their full bonus, we've got to hit minimum monthly collections. And then a lot of the additional bonuses are based on hitting certain levels of collection as a whole, as an organization, not office by office. So it's like, I want you guys to make sure that you hit bonuses in December. And I want our offices to finish strong. And I want to make sure we've got the cash flow if we want to make, improvements to the office or buy new equipment or whatever it is. But I think if you don't, and I used to be at fault for this. I used to just tell the team, this is your goal. And honestly, I used to tell them, this is your quarterly goal. I used to meet mainly just with the office managers and say, this is your goal for the quarter. And I would just expect them to meet it. I would kind of leave it in their hands. I typically wouldn't give them updates on where they were at. We get to the end of the quarter and it was either you hit your goal, great job, or you didn't hit your goal. Like what can we do next time to do better? And I realized I was letting our teams down as a leader by not being more involved in the process, by not breaking it up month by month. Hey, this is what you got to hit every single month. This is where you're at. And so I do typically send these emails out at least once a month. And depending on the month, sometimes multiple times to kind of give them progress updates. And with it being December, I'm sure there will be another round of emails that goes out probably right around the holiday time. Because most offices are open at least a couple days around the 2 weeks with Christmas and New Year's. So, kind of letting them know this is where you're at now. This is where our organization's at now. This is what we've got to do on these last couple days we have left in order to get there. And just try to reignite that fire and make sure everyone's rowing the same direction with the same goals in mind. So
sometimes, and I'm in and out of practices and I deal with a lot of practice owners. Sometimes I hear this and in my head, I'm like, it's the wrong thing to focus on. Sometimes I hear docs say, I just got to hit my BAM every day, my bare ass minimum. And that's not a goal. That's survivability, right? I almost think like the BAM, the bare ass minimum, I don't think it should ever be talked to. I don't think it should be talked about. I don't think like I've been in practices with docs where they're like, hey guys, remember, we got to at least hit our BAM today, bare ass minimum. And I'm like, no. You don't hit your BAM, okay? You hit your daily goal. The BAM is not a goal. I think docs that are listening, like, stop thinking about the BAM. Like, stop, like I think they put that, like, we got to hit the BAM. No, you don't got to hit the BAM. You got to hit this much above the BAM. Otherwise, you're just doing the BAM. The BAM, it makes you minimum. That's you becoming minimum.
You just said BAM a lot. But Matt, I do think it's a good point. And I think you're right in the sense of, I think some people, or not some people, I think
a lot of docs.
I think it's in human nature to want to set goals that you feel like are very attainable. I think people are naturally fearful to set goals that are too big because they don't want to have the disappointment of not hitting the goals. And so that's not something that I feel like I struggle with. And sometimes maybe to a fault. I think, there are definitely times where maybe I set goals a little bit too big and we don't hit them. But I'll tell you what, man, if we set goals that are too big and we don't hit them, I bet we still do a lot better than if we set goals that are too small and we do hit them. So like think about it that way. And the thing is, at the end of the day, I think my teams know. I mean, yes, I want us to hit all of our goals. Yes, I want everyone to get bonus. Yeah, I want all that stuff to happen. But like, as long as our teams are putting in the effort, there are times we're going to fall short. It happens. It's part of growth. But I would rather fall short setting an aggressive goal, than hit a goal and be like, not that proud of it, like, okay, well, we did it, woohoo, good job. Like, when we hit our goals, I want to feel that, feeling of like, I want the goals to almost feel impossible. And I'll tell you what, 18.5 million or sorry, 1.85 million on 18 working days, that seemed like a potentially unattainable goal. Again, especially with the holidays coming up and people are Christmas shopping, and people don't want to spend money they don't have to spend money on. So I really did it. It felt like I was stretching our teams to their limits, but again, like they came through, and I think it's the same concept of, people will take as much time as you get them to complete a task. So it's like we put things inside boxes, and if we set ceilings on our team that are too low, it's like, I think once we kind of hit that goal, we lose momentum to keep going too. So I think that's the other downfall or short sight of setting goals that are too small is the team's like, okay, we did it. We're good. We can just kind of coast in the end of the year or the end of the month or the end of the quarter or whatever it is. So I want to set goals that my team is like fighting for till the very last day. I want team members motivated to, come in on an admin day and close a $10,000 financing case, and celebrate that, celebrate that win, send it in the group chat. Hey, I hit this. Hey guys, like, let's give them a round of applause. We just hit our monthly goal, that type of a thing. So I think when it comes to those goals, you got to think big. But again, I think clarity is super important. And I think you can't just your teams have a lot of different things going on. You can't just expect that everyone's going to break down and analyze and, make things into daily and keep track of their progress. And as much as we'd like everyone to do that, I just don't think it's that plausible that it's going to happen. And again, guys, at the end of the day, you've got to realize, like, I've got incredible team members, especially on our leadership team, that really take that ownership mentality, but it's really hard to think that you're going to find anyone that takes more of an ownership mentality or cares more about your business than you do. So, it's like, these are the type of things that you need to do, that you need to be involved with, and you need to be, motivating the team and setting these updates and celebrating, celebrate the progress. I like to, as I send out these updates like this, sometimes we're not there. Sometimes we're behind pace, and it's like, hey, I know this team can do it. We had a great month last month. Like, let's dig deep, like, let's really push to finish. But I also have some of these updates, like the one I sent today for a lot of offices, was like, hey, you guys are in great position. We as an organization are in great position, but like, we've got to keep that momentum up. Like, great work so far. Let's not lose focus. Let's keep our foot on the gas. This is what we need to do, on a daily basis to make sure we get there, that type of a thing. So
I think sometimes people focus on, like, I got to do 120,000 a month in collections, and then they hit like 105. It's like, if you want to do $120,000 a month in collections, you got to shoot for 150, right? You got to overshoot it. I don't think that happens that often. I also think there's a defeatist mentality that actually supersedes all this and happens before it, of like, I couldn't do that, or like, yeah, it's out of reach, or like, I think one is, I think one fear that happens with a lot of dentists I deal with is like, hey, you want to go from 150 to 180. Does your team know that? And they go, well, no. And I'm like, why don't you ask your team? Tell your team you want to do it. And they go, well, I don't know how to respond if they want to do that much more work. Like, do they really want to get to 180? I think you have to have a buy-in from everybody on that goal. And I think also, like, on the daily goal, I think sometimes staff members, when they hear the daily goal, they just think like, man, I got to turn over that many more rooms. And I think there's a transfer of emotion of leadership to get them motivated to get to that goal.
yeah, well, and I think that, for a lot of times docs are nervous to talk about revenue numbers, and I think they're nervous to key their team in. I think there's, a lot of offices where the doctors never talk about what their revenue is, what their collections is, what their goals are. Or maybe they set goals around other things like, patient reviews, which is great. But at the same time, it's, to your point, like you got to get buy-in from the team. And if that's not important to you, if revenue is not important to you, if growth, if profitability, then that's fine. I mean, I'm not sitting here telling you that it has to be, but if you want to have the ability to not only provide for your family, but also to provide more opportunity for all the families of all your team members, you kind of have to focus on those things. It's hard to give raises when revenue's not going up. It's hard to, add benefits if you don't have more profit coming from the practice. It's hard to, invest in new equipment if, those numbers aren't in check. It's hard to add another location or expand your office and provide more jobs to more team members if, your revenue's not growing. So I get that argument, and I think it's kind of like the whole sales in dentistry, where sales is a dirty word. And we did our episode on SC double hockey sticks, and obviously, I love talking about sales. I think it's an integral part of the success of our group. But I feel the same way about revenue and goals and numbers and all that stuff. I do understand why some dentists feel like it's icky to talk about. And to be fair, there's probably some team members that it will scare off. And that's fine. But like, I think if you take the time, first of all, if you show that you really do care about your team members, you really do care about the practices, you really do care about the patients, you really do care about the community. I think the team will know that, hey, you've got the right intentions, but at the same time, it's a business, and we need to make sure we're focused on things that matter. But I think it's also important to key the team in on like what cost you have. So, we've had those conversations, this same conversation I was talking about on the other episode recently about, I let one of the vendors know, like, hey, I just had to pay a $550,000 credit card bill for the business last week. I think it's important to let the teams know that too. Like, guys, yes, revenue is growing. Yes, we're getting better, but we still have to keep focusing on it, because you've got to realize our expenses are growing too. Yeah, we're bringing in a lot more money than we were last year, but we're also spending a heck of a lot more money than we were last year, just because our teams have grown, our offices have grown, cost inflation goes up, costs go up, all that other stuff. So
This is kind of off. I think on the subject, like docs don't want to talk about money. I've heard kind of two arguments with this. I had a doc that, I think I've said this before, bought a Maserati. I said, aren't you excited to drive that to work? And he's, oh, I'm never driving it to work. My staff asks for a raise. Then I have another doc that like doesn't want to talk about the daily dollars. Like, oh, we got to do $15,000 a day today, $20,000. He's like, Matt, if I really get into that, I talk about my numbers. Like, they're all going to ask for raises. Well, my pushback on that is like, well, can they go somewhere else and leave your practice and get better money because you're under market value? Like, market value is only market value. They can ask for a raise. You can say no, but they can't go out in the marketplace and get more money. I think there's a fear scarcity mindset of like, if they know, they will leverage that against me somehow. And I think that's really flawed thinking when it comes to talking about the financials. Like, if it was me in morning huddle, honestly, guys, I'm a lifetime sales guy. Like, I started my sales career in car sales. Call me a slimy car salesman. I'll wear the badge and wear it with honor. I don't care. If it was me doing morning huddle, in the break room, I would have a wet dry board, and I would have our daily production goal. I would have our monthly and our weekly. And then I would have where we are at in dollars. And I also would have my team based on performance. Like, if we hit these three metrics, this is how it impacts you. And I would actually talk about the money a ton, because it affects, like you said, it affects their quality of life. If you're worried about the staff leaving because they know about the money or asking for a raise, like one or the other, like, oh, he's not paying me enough, I'm leaving for what he's making, or like, hey man, you're making so much, I need a raise. What I will tell you is you need some self-reflection. If that's a real worry that could happen, you need to do some real self-reflection on how much your team has a buy-in and how much they like you and what your relationship is like with your team. Because team members who value their job and are well taken care of and actually enjoy the environment, those thoughts don't cross their minds.
Yeah, well, and I also think it's good to let the team have their control of their own destiny. So again, a majority of our bonuses have some weight or are based on collections, office collections, organization collections. So it it's like if I didn't share this stuff with our team on a regular basis, then yeah, could they run reports and figure it out on their own? Yeah, and like should their office managers be doing that? Yeah, I mean we've got weekly scorecards, we got everything else, but you got to realize there's so much going on in these dental offices, and sometimes things just come a little differently too when they're coming from the business owner than when they're coming from the office manager. So I do think it's impactful for you to also, I mean, I do. I leave a lot of the management stuff up to our office managers, regional managers, COO. I don't get involved in a whole lot of it these days, but I still am, you know, founder, owner, CEO, 10, going on 11 dental practices. I still am very involved with our teams as far as keeping them informed and keeping them motivated to hit our monthly goals, to know where they're at, to know what they need to be focused on doing daily. So I think it's different mindset, different approach maybe than some other dentists have about it. And I guess it's been working for me. And I do think for the most part, my teams appreciate, I mean, I honestly, when I send these messages or emails out, I often do get responses like, hey, like, thank you for, keeping us, up to date on where we're at. Like, thank you for like spelling out clearly, like what we need to do to hit our goals. Like I truly believe a lot of people do appreciate that transparency, that clarity. And the fact that I take the time to still take the interest in their office and making sure that we help them reach I mean, in every single email I said, hey, please let us know, please let the leadership team know if you need any resources or help to make sure you reach your goals. So, I mean, if offices feel like they're understaffed, or if they want me to send out an extra email blast to patients about a promotion, or whatever, like I'm always there to help. Our leadership team's always there to help. If they need, we've got kind of like floater treatment coordinators. If they feel like they've got a busy week and the TCs can't keep up with everything they need to do, like we can bring in one of the floater TCs in their office. So it's just kind of letting them know that we're a team and we're here to do our part to help make sure that they reach their goals. So,
There's a lot of layers to goals. There's your yearly, your quarterly, your monthly, your weekly, and your daily. I think the daily is the one on the front lines that you get a chance every day to transfer emotion to your team and be there and work as a team alongside them to hit the daily goal. I think if we're looking at the weekly and the quarterly and the monthly and the yearly, I feel like some of that can get lost in the sauce. The daily goal is kind of the one that I think you have the most direct impact on, because you can see the impact that day. It's like the quickest feedback. Like, I do this today, I get feedback today. And I think that is what actually starts to snowball into the bigger goals.
If there's one key takeaway I want you guys to take from this episode today, it's something that I learned, only more recently to make sure I'm doing it. Go into each month and count how many working days you have. Like, know what your baseline, because this isn't something I always did. And it's like you'd get to the end of the month and you'd be like, man, we kind of had a down month. And then you're like, well, yeah, no shit, we had 5 less working days than we normally do. So know what your baseline average number of working days is, know what your baseline average daily collections is, and go into each month knowing, hey, this is how many working days we have. This is how much we need to collect. And if for some reason something happens, you lose electricity, you shut down for a day or something, like redo those calculations, and just, or again, even as you get partway through a month, see where you're at. I mean, halfway mark's a good place to do it. Hey, we're halfway through the month. This is how many working days we've had so far. This is how many we have left. This is where our collections are at. This is where our goal is for the month. This is what, and sometimes, the daily collections goes down. Like, hey, to hit our goal, we actually need to do less. Like, let's see if we can one up that goal. And I mean, we actually have different tiers every single month. So we've got, as Matt mentioned, the bare ass minimum, which is something, to your point, we don't really talk about unless for some reason, like we're having a really bad start to the month. And it's like, guys, we got to make sure we at least, get over this hump. But there's tiers of bonus, like basically extra bonuses that every eligible, which essentially is like every hourly employee that's not, on their own commission system like TCs or, doctors, office managers, whatever, but every other employee gets a extra monthly bonus on top of some other things that they can earn. If the entire organization hits tier 1, they get, $100. And then if we hit tier 2 bonus level, then they get $200, I think, or $250 or whatever. And then if we hit tier 3, they get $400. And like in my mind, we want to be at least tier 2 bonus every single month. So like that is kind of my real goal, is like, let's at least get to that tier 2, because I want my teams, getting some extra money in their pockets. And that means that the organization's doing well and we're heading the right direction. And obviously you need to update those goals, those tiers. So as you grow, even if you don't add offices or add doctors or whatever, just as time goes on, each year your goals should be getting higher. You should be updating your fee schedule. Maybe you renegotiate insurance. Maybe you add some more procedures to the office, whatever. But we do, we've updated these tiers a couple times this year already, and we're going to update them again, in January. So by the time this episode's out, our tiers will probably be updated again. So
talking about the looking at and counting the days in the month. All right, docs, listen up. Okay. It's really critical. I'll tell you why. Let's do a different scenario. I had a doc that was working 4-day work weeks. Okay. 4-day work weeks for 4 weeks a month, right? He took 3 days off in 1 week, came back to me and said, we did not hit our collections goals this month. I said, Doc, you reduced your time to produce by almost 25%. He said back, well, you should have given me more the other days. Guys, you have to count your daily days, because even if you take time off, if you're a solo doc with a solo practice, you're working a 4-day work week. You take 4 days off that month, you have to understand that you've only given yourself 75% of the opportunity time to get to your goals. Really looking at how many like working days you have in a month, and also how does your life choices and taking time off, or someone getting sick, or you having to go to a funeral, how is that impacting those days? I had a doc when I went on vacation for 10 days, 5 days in 1 month, 5 days in another month. 60 days went by. He came back. He wasn't happy with the results. I'm like, Doc, you've reduced each month by 25%. How do you expect to reach your goals? Guys, you have to look at the amount of working days in a month, not just for a normal month, but when you take time off, you have to quantify that. If I do $10,000 days, well, I'm going to have, $30,000 less of opportunity, or $5,000 days and $15,000 less of opportunity. Now, I'm not saying you don't take time off because of that, because you need time off to refresh. Because if you don't take time off, those $10,000 days over 6 to 9 months are going to reduce to $7,000 and $6,000 days, because you're burned out. You need that time off, but you have to be aware of how that affects your monthly goal.
Well, and this is all the more reason to have at least 2 docs in your practice, but that's a whole nother topic.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us again. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a review. In the description should be the link to the Dental Unfiltered study club, where we have different subject matter experts who come in once a month. They do lessons for free. It's 1 hour. It's a webinar. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.